Hi everyone. Let us see unit number 10. The topic is index number. Let us see what are the objectives we are going to see. So, under this introduction, index numbers, purpose of index numbers, how we are going to represent the index numbers, and some important index numbers, issues in the construction of index numbers, what are the uses of index number, and sum up the story what we are going to see. So that one, and the keywords and the terminal questions we are going to see. So these are the things we are going to see. Now let us move on to that objectives. So here we are going to explain the meaning and appreciate the uses of index numbers, identify and avoid various issues faced while developing the index numbers for some special purposes. So here we are describing the limitations of index numbers to avoid the errors in the interpretation. Now we will move on to the introduction. So here in this unit, index numbers here we and its types of index numbers we are going to see. Why we are using these index numbers? What is the purpose? So index numbers are nothing but a specialized type of averages. So these they are designed to measure the relative change in the level of a phenomenon with respect to the time and geographical locations or some other characteristics. So, index numbers, which was developed for measuring the effect of change in prices, have become one of the most widely used statistical devices today. They are used to feel the pulse of the economy and as indicators of the inflationary and deflationary tendencies. Um, Here, we will also learn about that different formulas, that is, formula method device for constructing the index number, and what all problems one we will face while constructing the index numbers. Index numbers are specialized type of average. They are designed to measure the relative change in the level of phenomenon with respect to the time. Geographical locations are some of other characteristics. Originally, index numbers were developed for measuring the effect of changes in the price level. Button index numbers are also used to measure the changes in industrial production, fluctuations in the level of a business activities, variations in agricultural output, etc. So here, so index numbers are the devices for measuring the differences in the magnitude of a group of related variables, so said by Crooksten and Crowden. So many authors have defined some definitions about that index number. Let us see some definitions in particular. So, in fact, if we want to get an idea as to what is happening to an economy, we have to simply look to a few important indices like industrial output, agricultural production, and business activity, etc. So, here, many authors have defined, statistician has defined the index number in the following manner. So G. Simpson and F. Kafka, they defined the index number in this manner. Like index numbers are today one of the most widely used statistical devices. They are also used to take the plus of the economy, and they have come to be used as indicators of inflationary or deflationary tendencies. So likewise, Maslow, he stated that he gave the definition for index number in this manner. It is a numerical value characterizing the change in complex economic phenomena over a period of time or space. Like with Spiegel, he defined the index number as an index number is a statistical measure designed to show changes in a variable or a group or of related variables with respect to time, geographic location, or other characteristics. And similarly, A.M. Turtle, he defined the index numbers as index number is a single ratio which measures the combined change of several variables between two different times, places, or situations. So there are likewise so many statisticians have defined that index numbers in this manner. Now let us see what is the purpose of index number. So, what is the purpose? Why we have to use the index numbers? At very outset of the purpose of constructing the index number must be very clearly decided. Um, why we have to? What is the what the index number is to measure and why? There is no all purpose index. So every index is of limited and particular use. So failure to decide clearly the purpose of index would lead to the confusion and wastage of time with no fruitful results. All other all other problems such as a basic period, we have a number of commodities to be included, the price of commodities etc are decided to light of the purpose for which the index is being constructed. And we have to suppose that Rabi goes to market after a long period, he finds that the price of most commodities have changed. Some items have become costlier while other have become cheaper. On his return from market, he tells his father about the change in price of each item, what he bought. It is by welding to both. So the industrial sector consists of many subsectors. Also, each of them is changing. The output of some subsector is rising while it is falling in some subsectors. The change are not uniform. The description of the individual rate of change will be difficult to understand. So, can a single figure summarize these changes? So, we are looking into that following cases. So suppose we consider the case. There is an industrial worker was earning a salary of rupees 10, that is 1,000 in the year of 1982, and today he earns 12,000 rupees. Okay, today he earns 12,000 rupees, and what is the standard of living? Is it risen or within that 12 times during the period? So, by how much should his salary be raised so that he is well off as he before? So, this is the case we can consider. Case 2. So, you must be the reading of about the Sensex in the newspapers we may have cross upon. So, the Sensex points is indeed greeted upon. So, when Sensex dipped 600 points recently, it eroded investors' wealth by rupees nearly 1 crore rupees. So, what exactly is Sensex? So, we can have a look into the third case. The government says inflation rate will not accelerate due to rise in the price of petroleum products. How does one measure inflation? These are sample questions before in front of us in our daily life. So the study of index number helps in analyzing these cases. And now we are so, the representation of index numbers under this topic, how we are going to represent the index numbers. Okay, so before that, there has been this topic we are going to see how we are going to select that base period. So, selection of base period, how we are going to select. So the base period of index number is the period. What do you mean by base period? The base period of index number is the period against which comparisons are made. It may be a year or month or a day. The index the index of for the base period is always we are considering as 100, and the following points need to be have, that is we are going to keep under the consideration when we are selecting the base period. Okay, so here the index number of any period is in proportion with it. So so when we are doing the selection of that base period, we should have these 3 points in our mind. So the first point is the period that is selected as a base should be normal. It should be free from abnormalities like war, earthquakes, famines, and booms and depressions, etc. So the second point we have to consider that it is desirable to have an index based on a fairly recent period, since comparisons with a familiar set of circumstances are more helpful than comparisons with vaguely remembered conditions. And the third point is when we are selecting the base, a decision has to be made as to whether we have a fixed base or chain index. So, in the fixed base method, the year or a period of years or to which all the other prices are related is constant for all the items. So, so here we have the price index measure and permit the comparison of prices of certain goods, and similarly the quantity index numbers measures changes in physical volume production, construction, or employment. Though price index numbers are more widely used, production index is also an important indicator of the level of output in the economy. So here we will have the some important index numbers we have. The first one is consumer price index, and the second one is wholesale price index, and the third one is index of industrial production, and the fourth one is Sensex, and the fifth one is human development index. So the next one is so we are going to face what are the issues we are going to face when we are doing the construction of index numbers. So we have to keep it in our mind when we are while doing the construction of index numbers. So we need to be clear about the purpose of index. So calculation of volume index will be in appropriate when one needs a value index. Besides this, items are not equally important for different groups of consumers when consumer price index is constructed. The rise in petrol price may not directly impact the living conditions of poor agricultural laborers. Thus, the items to be included in any index have to be selected carefully to be as representative as possible. So only then we can get a meaningful picture of the change we have. So um, that is how we are going to. So while that is we should where every index we should have as a base year, this base year should be as a normal as possible. So years having extreme value should not be selected as base year. So the period should not also belong to too far in the past. So the comparison between the year 1993 and 2005 is much more meaningful than a comparison between 1960 and 2005. is much more meaningful than a comparison between 1960 and 2005. So many items in 1960 is a typical consumption basket have disappeared at present. So therefore, base year for any index is routinely updated. Okay. So how we are going to select the base period, and what we are going to, which one we are going to select as a current year. So that we are going to see. So another issue in is the choice of formula. So which depends on the nature of questions to be studied. So the only difference between the types of indices. So when we are using the type of indices, which formula we are going to. So whether we are going to use the weights in this formula. Besides, there are many sources of data with the different degrees of reliability, and data of poor reliability will give a misleading results. So, hence, due care should be taken in the collection of data. If primary data are not being used, then the most reliable source of secondary data should be chosen. And this now we are going to see that 10.7 uses of index numbers. So why do we know we need to use index numbers? And the wholesale price index number, consumer price index number, industrial production index are widely used in policy making. So these index numbers we are using in that. So here we are having some other area we have, that is consumer price index or cost of living index numbers are helpful in wage negotiations, formations of income policy, price policy, rent control, taxation, and general economic policy formulation. So these are there are many field we have. So likewise we have wholesale price index. Wholesale price index is used to eliminate the effect of change in prices on aggregates such as national income and capital formulation, etc. The WPI is widely used to measure the rate of inflation. The inflation is general continuing increasing in the prices when inflation is becoming sufficiently large. So here's the sum up of what we have seen. So the index number is a statistical device for measuring the relative change in the large number of items. There are several formulae we have. Okay, so for work out this index number, and every formula needs to be interpreted carefully. So next thing is the choice of formula. What we are going to choose. So the choice of formula, it largely depends on the question of interest, and we are having the we are familiar use of index numbers. Always we are using these index numbers. So these are wholesale price index and the consumer price index, index of industrial production, agricultural production index, and sensex. So these are often we are using this index numbers. And the next one is the index numbers are indispensable in economic policy making. So these are the things we have in this one. And keywords, when we are coming to keywords, index numbers. So this is the main keyword we have. So index numbers are nothing but they are specialized type of average we have. And Sensex and price index number, these are the keywords we are using. So these are the normal time period in particular situations. Price index number measure and permit the comparison of prices. And then usually we have that terminal questions of this unit. So why do we need the index number, and what are the desirable properties of the base period, and what are the different types of index in real life activities, what is the difference between the price index and quantity index, is there any change in price reflected in price index number. So these are the very basic questions in the terminal questions. So with this one, we are sum up or coming up this unit number 11 with this one. Okay. So thank you.